Good afternoon, everyone. It's good to be back again. Yes, it takes a while, as David said, it does take a while to put these things together, but I am really happy to do it. It is what I love to do. I love to teach and I love to share what I know. So it really is a pleasure and an honor to do these sessions with you. All right, so just to let you know, we have a little technical problem. I am not a co-host, so if you see a few glitches, we're trying to work it out. So Davion, I don't know if you have allowed me to share my.
Yes, I've turned on screen sharing for you. Right.
All right. So today we are going. Let me see if I get that up. Screen two.
Remember as well, Nicole, disable annotation so we don't have any marking on the screen.
And I do that where I'm not.
I think it's security.
No, I won't. Because I'm not the co-host. I'm not seeing security.
Oh.
I don't see it. No, I'm sorry. I don't see it.
Okay. Well, guys, the challenge we're having is that for some reason I'm not able to make Nicole the co-host for this meeting. And when she becomes the co-host, which I typically do, she's able to manage the session a little differently. But it shouldn't be a big problem. But just one of the things that she can't do right away is turn off annotations. So let me encourage you to make sure that you do not mark on the screen because we're not able to disable that feature for some reason. Nicole, continue, please.
All right. Are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, we're seeing your screen.
Okay. All right. So today we're doing planning for grades 4 to 6. All right. So I took a selfie last night, and that's a picture of my selfie. We are tired. I am dead, like all the rest of you. We're on the last lap, and really it has been very, very difficult. And sometimes we feel like we can't make it. But the finish line is just ahead of us. We have 2 or 3 weeks left to go. So I'm encouraging you to just try and make it through and hang in there, because the finishing line is really, really close. And I know exactly how you feel, because I'm not only doing sessions like this, I still have my grade 6 students that I have to prepare for and to try and engage them as best as I can. And I do that on a daily basis. And I don't know if anybody else realizes this, but I find it far more difficult to do virtual teaching than face-to-face. I mean, I'm just dying to get back to the classroom. I don't know if I can manage this much longer, but it is what it is, and we just have to make it through. So what I wanted to talk about today, and as Davion said, I went through a lot of things to decide exactly what I wanted to talk about today, because we're on the end, we're tired, and I started off planning, giving you a lot more new things, but I just don't think our bodies can manage it. We're at the end of a year, and by the time in another month or so, a month or two, we're starting to think about the new year. So today I want to talk about thinking and planning. And when I talk about thinking and planning, what we really need to understand, and what we do understand, is that every successful lesson starts with successful planning. And planning starts from what you think and how you think about your approach. What is it that guides your thinking when it comes to lesson planning? And you may look at that question and say, what is it that guides my thinking? And you may think that this is really a dumb question. But when you delve a little deeper, you realize that sometimes our thinking is not focused. And I'll give you an example. So sometimes what guides our thinking is the search for a resource. So we know, we've checked, and we're doing algebra, for example, or we're doing area of a compound shape, or whatever the topic is. And the first thing we do, we go get on our laptops or our phones or whatever device we have, and we Google a worksheet for that topic. So what we we're doing is we're allowing that resource to guide our thinking. So, and we spend an hour or two clicking from north to south all over the place trying to find this resource that we're going to use in our classroom, this worksheet, this perfect thing. That's really not the most productive way to approach our planning. And if we're honest, we realize that many of us do that, right? It shouldn't be the resource that decides how we are to go ahead. So I wanted to look at a way, how is it that we can keep our thinking focused? So I wanted to try something today. So let's try this together. Everybody take out your pens and papers. Davion, could you talk me through what's on the chat, because I don't have the chat on my screen at all. So we're going to try this task together. And the task that I want you to do, I want you to think about what is it you need to do to cook spaghetti. So if you're, I know it has nothing to do with teaching, but just humor me today. What are the things that you need to, if you're going to teach me how to cook spaghetti, what are you going to teach me to do? What are the things that you're going, so can you take 1 minute and write down the things that you're going to teach me, the things that you're going to tell me? What is it that I have to know how to do in order to cook spaghetti? Could you take 2 minutes, and I'm going to keep my timer 60 seconds. Or maybe what we can do, we can put some of the things in the chat, and maybe Davion can read them so that I can hear. What are some of the things that we would do if we want to cook spaghetti? Break this down, this task down into subtasks.
So Nicole, you mean the specific steps that they would have to take?
Right. What are the steps? So the task is to cook spaghetti. So if I'm telling you to go and cook spaghetti, what are the things that you would have to do to get the spaghetti cooked? What are the things that you would have to do to get that spaghetti cooked?
Suzette has said, get utensils, pot to boil, gather ingredients, put water to boil.
Time, length, boil, or I'm seeing it now. Boil water, add spaghetti, collect ingredients. What do we mean by time, Alcatel? Measure the amount of water to the amount of, oh, that one left, water to boil, gather the ingredients. Okay, I want you to think about it in a logical sequence. Think about this task in a logical sequence. What would I have to do first? What would I have to do next? Could you write down 5 steps on your paper? Everybody just write down 5 steps. What are the 5 things? Let us put it this way. I have never cooked in my life. And you're telling me, you're instructing me on how to cook spaghetti. What are you going to tell me? What are the steps you're going to tell me on how to cook spaghetti? Put water to boil. First boil water. Get a big pot, fill with water, place pot. Okay. All right. So we have there are some steps that needs to happen for us to cook the spaghetti. Okay. All right. What you have there, just put it down to the side, and we're gonna come back to it. Let's not talk about it for now. We're going to come back to that. All right. So, oh, where is, first thing I want to talk about, there are really 2 things I want to talk about. And the first thing I want to talk about is what we just did in a very not detailed way. There's something that if you are a geek like me and you follow EduTwitter and you follow 1,000,001 educators from around the world, there's a buzzword that has been going around lately called atomizing. For those of you who have done special ed or any other course like this, it's the same thing as what we talk about when we talk about task analysis. So it's just been given a new name. So what essentially it is taking these big chunks of information or these big how-tos and breaking them down into really small parts. So atomizing is the process where you break down a topic into subtasks and subtasks. Nothing new. We all know about this. We all do this when we are teaching. But there's a little more detail that atomizing goes into. And the question you may have is, why bother with something like that? And why we bother is because when we approach or we think about our lessons or our lesson sequence in this fashion, we really increase the probability of success for each child. And I'm going to show you um, the innards of it. All right. So most of us in the chat, this is what we had. Fill the pot, turn on the stove, check the water, add spaghetti to the pot, check if the spaghetti is cooked, turn off the stove, remove the spaghetti from the pot. Are we in agreement? This is basically um, what we would have to do if we were cooking the spaghetti. Now let's take a deeper look. Let us take a look at the one step, fill the pot with water. For me to know how to fill the pot with water, I would actually have to bring the pot to the sink. I'd have to turn on the water. I'd have to check the water level in the pot, and then I'd have to turn off the water. Correct? Now, if we are teaching or we are focusing on just telling the children to fill the pot with water and assuming that they know all those other 4 steps, it's highly likely that our success rate in cooking spaghetti is going to be less. Do we agree? So if we look now and we talk about turning on the stove, we can be telling the children, look, you turn on the stove. But really and truly, turning on the stove has several other subtasks. Place the pot on the burner, turn on the burner, add salt. There are lots of things that it entails. So we have to now decide that we really have to zoom in on these little skills, because a child may not be succeeding at cooking the spaghetti because one of these little minor subtasks are not there, right? So all of them, if we look, there are a whole lot of subtasks to each of the steps that we had spoken about. Okay. All right. So let's take a look at it. So if we are to look at a task like to cook spaghetti and think about it with our teacher lens on, to cook spaghetti would really be the benchmark. So when you're looking at it, that's the big idea, that's the big picture. That's what we want to get them to do at the end of our sequence of teaching. And what we would have is fill the pot with water would be that objective that we have. And a lot of us stop at that objective and we just start focusing and start designing our lesson with that objective alone. But what I'm saying is we need to talk about the sub-objectives, if there's such a thing. Sub-objectives, these tiny subtasks that go into filling the pot with water. All right? So that's the first thing we're going to talk about, and I'm going to give some examples on that. And the second thing I want to talk about is variation. Now, there's a whole theory called variation theory, and I can send some links on good articles on that. But the essence of variation theory really has, I want to talk about 2 components of variation theory. And variation theory says that for us to understand, for children to understand a concept, we need to see it in contrast. And we see this with our children, and we see this with young children. And if you have children of your own or you've been around young children, you see it. So you have a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old that has a dog at home, and the child knows the dog. And when you take them out somewhere and they see a goat, they're calling the goat a dog, because that's what they have not been able to put that in contrast. So let me bring it to you for example. So for example, we have this shape here, and this is a pentagon, right? And everybody knows what a pentagon is. And a lot of times when we're teaching, and I'm just using pentagon as an example, but it's anything that we're teaching, we talk about what it is, and we hardly talk about what it is not. And variation theory is saying that it is very, very important to talk about what it is not. So when we're teaching about a pentagon, we need to say, how is that different from a square? How is it alike? How is it different? How is it different from this shape? How is it different from this shape? Because that will really strengthen somebody's understanding of what a pentagon is. Are we okay? So this is what variation theory is saying. It's like you need to teach with contrast. So when you're teaching Pentagon, compare it with something that they already know. These are all concepts that we understand. Now, let us look at this, what is on the screen. So we're teaching Pentagon, and we're asking students to compare, and we're asking them, for example, what is the difference between the square and the pentagon, highlighting the characteristics. Now, my question to you is this. Let us look at this comparison, and let us look at this comparison. Which of these do you think would be more effective in allowing a child to understand what a pentagon is? So there's this, and there's this, and I've only changed one thing. What? So some are saying the first. Which one? Is it the one with the colors, or is it this that would help the child to understand what a pentagon is, or is this more effective in teaching what a pentagon is? Could we put some answers in the chat? Some said when they're all one color. Some said when they're colors, all in yellow. D. Campbell says with all in yellow. Could we? Why is that so? I know we're not opening up the mics because every time we open the mics, we have a disaster. So I'm going to be talking to myself. Forgive me. I'm going to read the chat and talk to myself. So this is really nice and bright and looks good. And it's pretty on the page, and it makes your classroom really nice to be in. But when we're teaching Pentagon, this one is where students really need to think, what is the difference between the pentagon and the square? Because now you have erased the characteristics that have nothing to do with that shape. The color doesn't matter, right? The color doesn't matter. So this now, you can see the children really have to do a deeper thinking about what the difference is, all right? So this is what we're talking about, doing it in contrast, all right? Let them see what the difference is, and you're able to see that when you remove the things that are not necessary. All right. So another concept of variation theory, I really hope I'm not boring because I really am a lover of variation theory, is generalizing. They need to see the thing several times and not just in the same manner. They need to see it multiple ways. So let's take the same pentagon. And I have this all the time at grade 6, and I'm sure all teachers have this problem. So the children have learned that this is what a pentagon is, and they have in their head that it is the shape that looks like a house. It has that roof, and it has 5 sides. And if you put the pentagon in a different direction, a lot of them are not able to realize that that's a pentagon, because the characteristic that they're looking for is that pointed roof. And if they don't have that pointed roof, they're not able to process that it's a pentagon. And worse, if you give them pentagons that are not regular pentagons, they're absolutely lost. Absolutely lost. So not only we have to give them let them see this thing in multiple ways. All right. So it's easy to explain this when we're talking about shapes, because it's very clear to see when we're talking about shapes. How many of your children would have called every single shape here is a pentagon? But how many children would have labeled them as a pentagon? It's really going to stump them. All right. So as I said, it's easy to see this concept of variation when we're talking about shapes, but we need to have that thinking when we're talking about everything that we're teaching. So let us take a look at something like algebraic equations. And the question here, I mean, this is after we teach it, this would be more of an assessment. Tick all the algebraic equations. And I have, 5 options there. And students are to decide and make a decision which of these are algebraic equations and which ones are not. All right? Now, how many of our students can do this? I dare say not as many as I would like. All right? Because first thing they have to know, they would have had to have some experience with what an algebraic equation is and what it is not, right? And the only way the best way to do that is to do activities like this. But these are things that, because it is not written specific in our guide, that we tend not to teach these things. And these are the sub skills that I'm talking about. All right, everybody okay? And I think that we do not do equations at the primary level. Absolutely, we do algebraic equations at grade 6. Yes, we do. So, and all the equations that are here are grade 6 level. Well, they're actually less than grade 6, but every grade 6.
Nicole, if I may, equations actually start from grade 4 in Jamaica. I'm not sure if the person who is speaking, who said that is Jamaican, but from as early as grade 4, Jamaicans are doing simple algebraic equations.
Right. So this is it is done. If you're not in Jamaica, it's probably, maybe it's not done there. And I really question why not, because I think it should be, because we started much earlier. So these are all, there's no equation that is here that it should not be able to be managed by a grade 6, even grade 5, even grade 4. And if we look at the 5th one, so if you look at each one, there's something that changes with each one that I've put there. So it's not just that I've put things there without thinking. They're carefully designed to check that students understand certain rules about algebraic equations. All right. Somebody says algebraic is not done at grade 1. I know this is a 4 to 6 session, so I'm assuming that everybody is 4 to 6. All right. So how do we use these thinkings that I've been talking about, atomizing and variation theory? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to give a few examples, and then I'm going to finish talking about theory, and hopefully when you're cooking your dinner tonight, you can think about it. So how do we use these thinkings for lesson planning? So the topic that 4, 5, and 6 we all do in 3rd term is probability. So I thought let us give an example out of probability. All right. So probability, as I said, spans between 4, 5, and 6, and it is taught in the 3rd term. So if you haven't taught it, you should be thinking about teaching it very soon. And the problem with probability is, because it's at the end of the year, a lot of times we forget it. Not that we forget it. We have grade 4 literacy and numeracy, we have PEP, we have all kinds of other things that come in the way that it tends to be forgotten. So I said, let us take a look at probability. So the benchmark for probability for across grade 4, 5, and 6 is understand and apply probability concepts. And in grade 4, they do this when they're making predictions. Grade 5, they're identifying possible outcomes of an experiment, and at grade 6, they're identifying all possible outcomes of an experiment. So you see how the spiral effect on that. They're building on grade 5 is building, grade 6 is building on grade 5, building on grade 4. All right, and here are some of I just pulled out some objectives from the curricula, and these are the objectives for 4, 5, and 6. Now, what happens, as we were talking about, is that this is what is given to us. And sometimes we just take these and not think about what are these objectives made up of? What are the skills that we need for the children to be able to accomplish these objectives? All right. So there's if we ask ourselves 3 questions, it certainly will guide the way we think and being able to break down into these subtasks. And the first question we should ask ourselves is, what is the most difficult question that I would like all my students to master? So we're not focusing on the students who are super advanced, but what is the level of question that I want every single child in my class to be able to step away with? So once we think about that question and we go hunting for that question, and which is what I did, and I said, okay, this is the question that, and I teach grade 6, so I'm taking a grade 6 question. This is the question that I would like everyone in my classroom to be able to do. Do I want some of them to be able to do more? Absolutely. But this is my standard. This is the base that I want. Um, this is just some cards with some letter cards, and they're asking the probability. What's the probability to pick G, not picking a vowel, that kind of thing, right? So that's the first question that I ask myself. So once I've selected this difficult question now, then the question comes, what are the subcomponents? What are the subtasks that I need to teach in order for all my children to be able to complete that task accurately? So I will sit for a few minutes and think about the task and say, what does a child need to know to be able to do that? In the same way we were talking about the spaghetti. All right. So these are some subskills, and I typed them on as they came to my head. So they're not sequenced. They're just, these are some of the and it's not even complete. I stopped when the slide had enough space, right? So classifying events as more, less, or equally likely. Students have to understand that, right? And they have to understand certain, probable, unlikely, and impossible. They also have to understand that not everything occurs with the same likelihood. So those are pretty obvious. But then they also have to understand and be able to differentiate between a set, what is a whole, and what is part of the set, right? Because that's what probability is going to be using, that understanding. Further on, so they're going to have to kind of have a conceptual understanding of fraction, right? They're going to have to be able to identify all possible outcomes and find probability. So this was just a quick list of what I thought the skills would be necessary for them to complete that task. So the next thing that you need to do, because you now have the skills, how do I sequence this content over the available time? Now, I may get, I will say it very quietly. I'm not speaking for JTC, nor am I speaking for the ministry. I'm only speaking for Nicole Thomson here. I believe lesson planning is the wrong unit that we should plan with. I believe that we need to plan in topics. That's me personally. Because what I will do now, if I'm teaching that, I would take all the subskills, divide it out among the 2 or 3 weeks or 1 week or whatever time period that I have, and so that I'm able to cover it once I sequence it. If I keep thinking about lessons as one plan by one plan by one plan, I'm not able to see the big picture. So when I do it this way, I am able to see what I need to cover and the time that I have and plan myself, and really make the plan be an instructional sequence rather than a lesson plan. So that's my personal view. All right, so you decide how, I'm not telling you to go against no principle or do anything of this sort, I'm just telling you how I do it. All right, so how should I sequence this content over the available time? You know, you have 2 weeks. How are you going to stretch out those 15, 10, 12 subtasks? Now, don't be mistaken. I'm not saying each subtask is a lesson, right? Not each subtask is a lesson, but we just need to make sure that they're all covered. So which subskills, we have to also think about which of these subskills are must-haves or which ones would be nice but not essential. When we look at the subskills, some things we can say, time is not going to allow, this one is not as essential. Right? So we're able to plan in a more, a really good way. Then when we're deciding activities, we need to decide activities that teach as well as activities that assess. And we're talking about formative assessment. So I'm not talking about writing a worksheet. I'm not talking about giving a test or anything like that. I'm just saying some activity that allows you to check if the students have, if they understand what they're doing. And the truth is that students, because of the spiral approach of the curriculum, students already have some of these skills. So all we are really doing is checking that they have it and reinforcing and assessing for mastery to make sure that, yes, this skill is now solid, right? So that is how I see planning more in an instructional sequence, so that you can clearly see where you're going. I'm hoping that it's making sense. but this is how this is what brings clarity for me. All right, so let us look at the one subskill about understanding more likely. Understanding more likely. So this is just a tiny subskill. And remember, we spoke about creating activities that teach and assess, and I'm talking about variation. So right now I'm going to give you some examples about what we need to think about when we're talking about variation. So let's go. Let us look at this question. So all of these, I'm going to show you, I think it's 3 or 4, and all of them are talking about more likely. And I want us to write in the chat, are they the same? Are they asking students to do the same thing? Or is there a difference in what we're asking? So this one says, on which color is the spinner more likely to land? White or green? Easy enough, right? If you select a marble without looking, which color are you more likely to pick? Let's take a look at that question, right? So we're not really looking for the answer. What I'm looking for is, what is the question? So let us compare in your mind that question to this question. They're both asking about more likely. Are these questions the same? Are these questions the same?
Nicole?
And then let's add a third one to it. If you select a marble without looking, which color are you more likely to pick? And look at the options, right? So I see someone said these questions are the same thing, but are they? Let us look at this one.
Nicole, I've opened
the
mic. Nicole.
Yes.
I've granted permission to participants to open their mic if you wish to hear from them. And I think they're
you'd have to tell me who can speak, because I can't see that.
That's fine.
Is there anybody who would like to answer if they think this question, these 3 questions are the same question?
Yes, I see where you have the 3, but most likely you have to look at the number of things that are in the package, or is in the diagram.
Permission to speak?
Go ahead.
So do you think they are the same or they're not the same?
Afternoon, colleagues.
Not the same.
No, I don't think they are the same. I'm going to put a little bit of language arts in it now, and I'm saying that they are basically at different levels of understanding. The first one is quite easy to see, that it would be green. So if you are looking at it from even the simplest of understanding, you are able to see that the green there would suggest that you would land on the green, right? So I am saying that the levels of understanding are different. Similar questions, but the levels of understanding are different.
Can I just speak to?
I'm going to allow you, but so you're saying that this question here with the green is a simpler question than this question?
Yes, that is what I'm alluding to.
Okay. But both of them are asking about more likely.
Right.
The concept of more likely.
Yes, but I did say I am putting a little bit of a language art spin on it now, and I'm thinking that one of them would be more at the literal level. The green one, to me, would be more at a literal level, because as a child, even a younger child, let's say a grade 1 or 2 child, would say to you, Miss, there's more green there. So it is more likely that it would land on the green, right?
Okay, okay. Let me just make clarification.
May I say something?
On my personality. When I ask a question, it usually.
May I say something?
Yeah, give me
waiting.
a second. Give me a second. So when I ask you, are you sure, or when I'm even pressing you, it doesn't mean that I don't agree. It just means that out of the habit of pressing children and pressing people to think. So it's not that I don't agree with you. I'm just pressing for you to sharpen up your, our conversation.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
could
I
I have somebody
totally
who thinks that
understand.
they're similar?
Asking if I
I'm
may say
agreeing that they
something.
are the same.
All right.
Or are they? Are
D
they?
Campbell, D Campbell is saying that
I
they are
can't see
the
who's speaking.
same.
Sorry. Right.
Okay. I'm say Deidre Campbell is saying that they are the same. My reason for saying that or opting for that, regardless of the level or the difficulty of the question, the instruction still stands, and it's asking which are you more likely to pick.
Okay. Let,
If
let me
I
let me let
may,
me play. Let me play
I'm
devil's
thinking. Okay.
advocate. Let me play devil's advocate. If a child is able to do this one,
Yes.
does that does that mean that they're able to do this one?
Yes, it means that they are able to do it. Once they have fully grasped the concept of more likely, they will or they can do both questions.
Okay. All right. I don't. I really. I want. There are a lot more, so I want to go on. But here's my thinking, and I may be wrong, but this is my thinking. When you look at
Okay.
this question, and as I said, this is my thinking, and we can offer discussion. This question is asking children to see which one is more, which one do you have more of, but it's talking about a whole, so it's part of a whole, right?
Yes.
And this question, they're talking about a part of a set. True?
Yes.
Now, for us as adults, that's a seamless understanding. That's a seamless understanding. For children, it is not. Are you understanding what I'm saying? So can do this does not necessarily mean that they can do this. They probably can, but it's not necessarily so. So the point I wanted to make, if you only have these kinds of questions, then you are not checking if the understanding has moved to this kind. So what I really wanted to say is that we need to have that variety of the type of questions that we use both for instruction and for assessment. So that was really the point I wanted to make. All right. So can we agree on that? And this one is even still testing your understanding of more likely. It requires much more than the other two. Okay. All right. So let's move on with that. So is everybody okay? In my questionnaire, in my opinion, black and light blue is on probability based on preference. Which question? This one? There was a statement saying it's based on preference. No, it's not based on preference. If you select a marble without looking, so that's the foundation. That's the stem of the question. If you select a marble without looking, so they're not able to see the colors. Okay. All right. So the next thing we want to do, and we're already at 3 o'clock, so we're already at 10 to 3. I wanted to give you some tools that you can make your own questions really easily and quickly, and think about these thinkings that that we have discussed, and try to incorporate them in your instruction and in your assessment. So I went searching around and started to compile some of the websites and these virtual tools. And then I thought about it and I said, look, we are tired and teachers, we're drawing breaks right now. So let us do something really, really simple. So what I'm going to go through today is Google Drawings. If you're familiar, is there anybody familiar with Google Drawings? Is Google Drawings something that you're familiar with? Could you just type yes or no in the chat so I get an idea of if this is brand new that I need to move a little slower, or if most teachers are familiar with it? No, okay, so we have a lot of no's going on. All right, Google Drawings comes out of the Google Suite, and once you have a Google account, this is free. So these are one of the free things, and you know we teachers love free. Now Google Drawings is really, really easy to understand, and really, it's very quick for you to start working with it, because it being a Google application, most of the things that you know from Word, it just transfers almost seamlessly into Google Drawings. Okay. All right. So where do we find Google Drawings? So Google Drawings, you're going to find it once you sign on to your Google account. You know those little 9 dots up at the corner there, which gets you to Google Apps. And once you get to Google Apps, then you can go to Google Drive. Now I'm going to show you. I'm gonna have to do some switching just to get things to show you. So please forgive me that it might be a little bit untidy. All right. So I'm going to try and drag them up. All right. So as I said, you're going to go right here and you're going to see Google Drive. Are you seeing my screen? Google Drive. Once you go down, if you use it a lot, you'll see Google Drive there. Your Google Drive here. Okay, so that's a Google Drive. And you head on to your Google Drive. Now, once you get to your Google Drive, I have lots of things here, but you're going to click New, and you're going to go to More. The more popular ones are Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and Google Drawings is the child that is forgotten. So you go down and go to Google Drawings. I believe, there we go. All right, somebody's marking on the screen. Unfortunately, once we're doing Google Drawings, that is going to absolutely mess up what we're doing. So I'm going to ask you, please, to stop. I mean, we have all adults here. We should have all adults here. Please, could we not do that? Because I'm going to do drawings now, and the participants will not know who is drawing, if somebody else is drawing or I'm drawing. Okay, thank you. All right, so where we're going to get is a blank sheet that looks like this. Is everybody seeing the blank sheet?
Yes,
Davion, are we seeing the blank sheet?
Yes, we are.
Okay, all right. So what we're to think about Google Drawings is like a canvas that we can draw on. Now, you may say, why bother with Google Drawings and not just use Word? But Google Drawings really allows you to move your shapes around and move things that you want around without the hassle of things jumping all over the place, which is what happens with Word, because Word is not a drawing tool. All right, so today the first thing we're going to look at is, could we do something for lines of symmetry? So let us say here we are going to insert. Everybody, not everybody, but if you're familiar with Word, it's the same type of thing. It follows the same thinking, so it's intuitive. So we're going to go and we're going to insert a shape. So what in our head we're designing something that students will be able to identify lines of symmetry. So here's a shape, and I click a shape and I put a shape down. All right. So there is the first shape. All right. And I know what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask children to find the lines of symmetry. So I want this shape, and I go back and I look, insert again. And if you look, there are lots of shapes. There are shapes here. There are lots of shapes that you can use in arrow. You can use all of these shapes, right? So let us say we want a circle. We can put a circle in. Now, just for you to know, when you're putting the circle in, you notice, sorry, that my big finger touched something that it should not have. You know, sometimes when we're inserting shapes and we want a circle or we want a square, and when we put them in a different shape, it's not quite the dimensions that we want it to be. So here's the circle, but when we look, it comes out like an oval. There's a way around that. Did you know the way around that? So let me take this off so I can show you, because this here is not a perfect circle. It's not a circle at all, actually. So what we do is when we're inserting and we click the shape that we want, we click circle, we hold down the shift key, and when we pull it out there, no matter how I move it around, it is going to keep the shape that it intended, right? So there it is. So it is a circle. So we have a circle there, and we can insert any amount of shapes that we want, right? Let's take another shape. Let's take this shape here, right? So yeah, this looks quite boring, right? So not only can we insert, when we insert the shapes, they come up with these standard colors, but we can always format that shape and we can change the fill color, right? Here. And I know all of you know this. We can change the color of the shape. We can also change, sorry, click on it. And we can also change the lines on the outside, the weight of the lines, if we want us to really stand out. We can do lots of things. So if we are now, so all we're really doing is inserting these shapes that we've selected to show lines of symmetry, all right? So I'm not going to go through all of this. I have one already done up that I'm going to show you what a finished one could look like. So let us say this is exactly what we have been working on. Oh, let me go back. Let me go back for a second. This here is not a shape. Is not a shape that is available in the insert. But if you go to insert image, you can either upload an image from your computer or you can search the web. All right, so let us look. We search the web, and this is exactly what I did, and I looked for window. Let us see if we can search for a door. Click enter. And we can look to see, do we want any of these doors to be inserted for line of symmetry, right? So you can actually search for images and then just insert it, okay? All right. So let us say we have this finished one. Just to let you know that you can change the color of your background as well. So in case I didn't want a white background, I wanted a black background, you can do that, right? Here is the undo button that you can undo what you want. No. So you have now prepared this document for lines of symmetry. What are you going to do with it? This can be a document that you use for instruction, or it can be what you're giving the children to do. Now, if you are using Google Classroom, you can put this out on Google Classroom. And if you're good at Google Classroom and you understand that Google Classroom allows you to give each child their own copy. So you don't have to do several copies of it. You will assign it as an assignment. And there's a little section on there that tells you students get their own copy. So every student will get their own copy, be able to make their annotations on it, and then hand it back to you, all right? Another way would be that you would have to send it by WhatsApp, and then they could, I guess, use their finger or however to make the edit. But let us look about how can we draw, how can we give instruction with this. If you have this on your screen and you're zooming, you can talk about drawing lines. Now, look at that neat thing. It kind of gives you a hint, right? So we can draw the lines of symmetry, right? We can draw the lines of symmetry. Now, somebody's going to tell me, and rightly so, that lines of symmetry we use as dotted lines usually. So we can change that. So if we just format the line, excuse me, and we talk about the line type, we can make that into dashes. Okay. Let me bring it up a little bit so you can see it a little clearer. All right. And the child can go through and tell you how many lines of symmetry and indicate lines of symmetry. All right. What I didn't show you, that I'll show you now. Let me just get rid of this. You're not limited to shapes that you can import. You can draw your own shape. So let me delete this and show you how you do that. So you would just go to insert, line, and here we're going to take the scribble, right? And we're going to take the scribble and we are going to draw whatever shape that we want. So that allows that as well. All right, everybody okay? Are there any questions? So can you use linear drawings for this exercise? Yes. So there are lots of things you can do. You can insert. For this activity, we're just talking about lines of symmetry. There are about 5 activities that I want to show you in the space of 10 minutes. All right. So the next thing that I want to show you is congruent shapes. So let me get a new sheet, a new one. We just click here and new drawing, and up comes a new. Well, if the internet works a little faster, up will come a new drawing very shortly. Now, if you notice the difference on the background on this one, this means that it is transparent. So we can change it to any color, as I said. But what it means that it is, when I mean it is transparent, is that if I were to copy it and put it on something else, you would not see a white background. You would not see a white background. So, you know, sometimes you want to clip a shape or drawing into another document. Google Drawings is good for that because the background is clean. There's no white background. So that's what this background means. It's a little bit hard to understand. So usually what I will do is change the background to white or change the background. If you look clear, I'm hoping that you're seeing it. You now have a white background. So that's what the difference is. So if you want to draw a shape, Google Drawings is good for you to create something to put in another document. All right. So now we're going to talk about congruent shapes. All right. And for congruent shapes, to teach that virtually, we really want the children to put things on and flip them and turn them around and rotate them. So, you know, this is what we want them to do. So we can insert again a shape, and let us take, let me take this shape here, and I'm going to insert this shape, right? And then I am going to ask the students to find which shape is congruent to this shape. I'm going to move this part a little bit to kind of be a little bit more obvious to them, right? And then what I can do is actually copy. I can copy this shape and I can paste it, so that I know that this shape is exactly the same. So I don't have to check that it is, and I can turn it whichever way that I want. I can change the colors. I can do all those things. I can put several of them for children to check, and then I will just make a slight adjustment on 1 or 2 so that it looks the same, but it really is not. So again, I have a finished one. So let me bring that up so that you can take a look at what a finished one would look like. All right. So this is a finished one. Congruent shapes. You are to take this blue shape and check which of these others, compare it to the others to determine if it's congruent. Now, this way, as I said, you're sending this to your children. When they have it, they will be able to move the shape. And sorry, I'm working with 2 screens. I'm sorry. They'll be able to move the shape around and match it. All right. So let us look. Is it the same here? They can clearly see that it is not so. Right. Like, what about with this yellow one? Oh, I think it could be. Oh, but we need to flip it around. We need to. All right. Is it the same? And check it. So they're able to have some kind of. Let me move it over a little bit. Yes, this one is congruent, right? The green one is different, right? So they would go down and move it, and they would realize that this one is not the same. All right. So it's interactive in terms of them being able to see the difference in the shapes. All right. Everybody okay with that? All right. So as again, you're sending it out in Google Classroom, and they will have the ability to manipulate this one. All right. The third thing I want to talk about is sorting shapes. I really tried to do things that are 3rd term topics. So again, we're going to start a new file. We're going to start a new drawing. And remember, all of this, I've thought about what it is that I want. I've done the thinking beforehand. All right, so I want them to be able to sort shapes. And I'm just going to show you this one because it doesn't make sense. We're running out of time. It doesn't make sense I go through inserting the shapes when I already have one done. I'm going to show you this one. So what it is and what it's not. So let's look at this one. These are just, I've just created these with shapes. And the activity is, what is a polygon and what is not a polygon? Remember, we spoke about children knowing what things are not. And we could do this as instruction. So I could say, Julian Rudder, A, is that a polygon or is that not a polygon? Yes, it is compatible with Google Classroom. Or I could call somebody else and I could say, Genevieve, is G a polygon or is not a polygon? Where should I put it? Why do you think it's a polygon? Why do you think it's not a polygon? So it's this kind of sorting. Now, do we only have to do polygons and not a polygon? No. When grade 4 is doing the different types, we could, what's a quadrilateral? I mean, it's only up to your imagination, the things that you can do with this. All of these were created right here in Google Drawings. All it, just inserting shapes and changing the colors. That's all that it is. The question, can this be used otherwise? Yes, it can be. It does not have to be with Google Classroom, but it's one of the Google Suites, so it works really seamlessly in Google Classroom. All right. I'm talking about Google Classroom because that's what I know, but it could be treated as a standalone, where you could actually give them a link into your Google Drive to access. Right? All right. So here is sorting shapes. So you can sort at the lower level. You can sort triangles and, you know, circles, squares, whatever it is. All right. So the last one that I want to do, is really my favorite one. Let me again put a new, sorry, yes. Slowly. All right, so now we're going to measure angles. And you may say, how do we measure angles? How do we measure angles virtually? How am I going to teach using a protractor when my students are not in front of me, when protractor themselves? How am I going to instruct? Because when we're teaching that, we really like to be there and be able to see how the children are holding the protractor. All right, so here is our Google drawing again. And what we're going to do is we're going to put, and I'm going to do it really quickly, we're going to draw an angle, right? Let me change the background. It's still loading, sorry. Sorry, it's still loading. All right, so since it's still loading, let me just give you one that's already done, all right? Because it really makes your life easier. So all I did, as you can see, I just drew two angles, all right? And all you need to do this is when you're drawing, just put insert and line, and here you want to select polyline. So let me show you here. Select polyline, because polyline allows you to hold down the mouse. When you lift it up, it stops, and then when you go over, it goes again. So you could actually even do a triangle, right? Very easy, very easy, right? So you can do a sheet like this, and then we're going to ask the children, or you're going to instruct and teach how to use a protractor. How am I going to do that? Now, there's a Google extension, and I'm going to, after I finish presenting, come from there and I go back onto my PowerPoint. I'm going to show you exactly where to get it, so don't worry about it. I'm going to show you. There's a Google extension called a HB ruler, I think it is. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is in a minute. Here it is. You get this virtual protractor right here. And what it allows you to do, you see that it has these 3 red dots, right? So what it allows you to do, you can move the protractor around, right? and we teach the children, okay, you're going to put this right here, right there, you make it exact. And then these dots here allow you to rotate. Allows you to rotate, not only rotate, but to extend the protractor as well. All right. So once we do that now, there you go. And the children are now able to read 10, 20, 30, 40, whatever it is, right? Now, also there is this little purple dot. I'm hoping you can see the purple dot. They are able to, once they've made a decision, they're able to extend it right here. And if you look, it gives you the exact degrees to check, so that they can check if they were correct, right? So you can rotate, it can rotate any direction that you want. There it is, right? So this is a neat, and before the question is asked, it is free, right? So that is how I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you the web how to get the free protractor. So this is it, and they have free rulers and they have all kinds of things, right? So not only do you have to do an angle, but you could also, this is how you move it across. You could also measure angles in here, right? For triangles and so. So this is really neat. So you can teach this virtually, right? Everybody all right with that? Now let's take this a little further. So I have to thank my math coach. She was the one who said, Nicole, you need to show them how you do this. So let me bring up a new slate again. So sometimes, not sometimes, all the time we want to show our children how these things relate to them in the real world, right? So what you can do, let me bring it up. You can go to Google Maps. You can go to Google Maps, and I have Google Maps here, and it's just Google Maps, just Googling Google Maps, and put your location. So this is where I teach. I teach right here at New Providence Primary. And you'll notice that it has a whole lot of roads where they are, and the children are from this area, so they know this area, right? And then what I'll do is I'm selecting a part of the community that they live in that we can talk about angles. So I see the streets have angles here, all kinds of things. And then I will go for my handy dandy snipping tool. Everybody needs to know that snipping tool, right? And I will say, okay, let me see the section that I'm going to select. And let us say I select this section. I'm just doing it really quickly. So I select that section of the map, and then I'm going to paste it on my Google Drawing. There it is. Voila, nice, quick. So now we have something that we are measuring angles, and we're looking at angles on something that they are familiar with, right? Something that we're familiar with, because they know these roads, right? So all you have to do, Google Maps goes everywhere and knows everybody. So just go to where they live and what they can look at, right? And you can ask questions about angles and measuring angles. So for what I would suggest that you do is that you insert lines, because it's easier for them to see when there's a line. So let us draw the line down, and then let us make the line a little bigger so that it's a little thicker, so that they're able to really see. We can probably change the color to red, and we can change the weight of it. We can make it thicker by border lines, line weight. We can make it, line weight. We can make it thicker, right? And we do the same thing. I mean, I know you understand what I'm saying. Let me draw another one. I know we're running out of time, and let us insert another line. Line, insert. So we're going to insert it from here. Oops, sorry, that's not what we want. We want to insert. Insert line. We're going to insert another line, and we're going to go from here over to here on Paddington Terrace, and we're going to format it as well. We're going to format border lines. We're going to change the line color to the same red, and we are also going to make it a little thicker, right? The line width. Oops, sorry, I'm doing the wrong one. Forgive me, I'm using two, oops, undo. When anything happens like that, you just click undo, all right? But you understand what I'm saying. How you can, let me just straighten it up, move it over. There we go. And get it right over, all right? And then they can measure the angles, because even though we have an image, a Google Maps image, we can still take the protractor. It will still come up. All right. So this is what we can do. So just to let you know, and then I want to get rid of that. I'll just take it off there. You can use Google Maps. Google Maps is really something that you can use, and the children love it, because you could then ask about parallel lines. Are these lines parallel? Are they not parallel? Which ones are exactly perpendicular? We can ask things like that. And there's also so we have the free protractor, which is a Google Chrome extension. They also have rulers. So you can measure, let them measure and check that these things are actually parallel or they're not parallel. Right? So that's what we want to talk about. And we're winding down. So really, Google Drawings is not something that is going to take a lot out of you, because as you see, it is just like Word, but it allows you to do a lot more in terms of drawing. So that's basically it for this portion. I just want to say two more things. Let me get rid of this from my screen. Hold on. Let me go back to. There's so many. All right, so we're back to my presentation. So basically, I just want you to be thinking about how we are planning and designing your instructional material and your assessment material with those kinds of thinking in mind. All right, here's where you're going to get that protractor from. It's called MB Ruler, and you just go to the Chrome web store and look for extensions and type in MB Ruler. So there you go. All right. So are there any questions about specific about Google Drawings? Well, I'm going to take questions in a second. So the last thing I want to say is that we are, as I said in the beginning, I'm really thankful that so many of you have come to spend some time with us today, because we know that we're really tired and sometimes we don't think we can make it. And this is an illustration that I actually have on my desk at work, by Charlie McKessie, and it says, "I can't see my way through," said the boy. "Can you see your next step?" Yes, just take that. So the message I want to leave with you, just take it one step at a time. We're going to make it. We're almost at the end, and then we'll get a little break to recharge. So that's basically it. So I'm opening up for the few minutes that we have for questions.